Mike, imagine now. I like the title that the staff and the administrative team of our church has pulled together for this capital campaign. I also appreciate the materials that we've already received explaining part of this, and I look forward to additional materials that we'll all receive. But there's one question I would love to hear you speak to today, so we all are on the same page. Why now?
Why now? Well, that's a good question, Larry, and I'm glad you asked me that question because there are several reasons as to why now. First of all, now is a time when we are in mission and ministry in wonderful ways here in Georgia's Lake Country with our two campuses located on either side of I-20. I think our church is strategically positioned for ministry and mission to our whole community now. And when I think about the building debt that we have on our South Campus on Cary Station Road, I think about the fact that more than $200,000 a year, almost $300,000 a year of what our generous congregation gives is spent on repaying mortgage debt, repaying our building debt. And I'd like to invite everyone to imagine now the ministries that we can engage in once that building debt is retired, when all of our congregation's generous giving can go into ministries of nurture, outreach, and witness. That's one of the reasons we used the acronym NOW, N-O-W, to invite people to imagine now new ways to grow our ministries to reach people here in our community and beyond now, if we could go ahead and pay off that building debt. Another reason that we want to do this now is because our mortgage holder has asked us to do this now. Our building debt is held currently by the Georgia United Methodist Foundation, which is an organization that assists United Methodist churches throughout the state of Georgia in both the North and South Georgia conferences with all things financial. And with the help of a generous anonymous benefactor of this congregation, we have a very unique loan arrangement through the Georgia United Methodist Foundation. And in fact, we renegotiated the payment terms in July of 2016 with the foundation and with the approval of that generous anonymous benefactor to get our payment schedule to a level that we could grow our ministries and mission as much as possible, even while continuing to pay off our remaining building debt. And a couple of things we agreed to do when we renegotiated those payment terms in July of 2016 were these. One was to begin to put together a legacy giving ministry toward building an endowment fund where people could through their estate giving and their will planning could leave money and assets to Greensboro First United Methodist Church that would go into an endowment that would earn interest and would continue to help our church grow years and years down the road. And we're on the cusp of putting together our legacy giving team and beginning to talk about that. But first, we wanted to fulfill the other requirement of that renegotiation, and that was to conduct a capital campaign toward retiring our building debt by the spring of 2019, which is, in essence, now. So that's why now. We have agreed to do this with the Georgia United Methodist Foundation and the approval of our generous anonymous benefactor.
What is that present indebtedness now?
I'm glad you asked that question, Larry. Now, our present indebtedness is around $2.2 million. And if that sounds like a lot of money, perhaps we should put that in perspective. When the South Campus on Cary Station Road was first built, the original cost of the building and property was almost $10 million. And there have been several campaigns along the way to pay down that debt. There was the original Building Fund campaign, which was a 3-year campaign from October 2007 to October 2010, and $5 million was received. More than $5 million was received, and that's pretty phenomenal when you remember that the economic crash and resulting downturn occurred during that time, what some people call the Great Recession. And still, this campus, our South Campus on Cary Station Road, opened for worship in November 2009 with this beautiful facility. Then there was a 1-year campaign called Miracle Sunday between April 2010 and March 2011, and over $400,000 was received for that Miracle Sunday campaign. Pastoral transitions occurred, and the Lake Country began to feel the effects of the economic downturn and the recession. And in January of 2011, although we had our debt down to nearly half of what it was originally, we refinanced the remaining $4.9 million mortgage with the help of that generous anonymous benefactor who put up the money up front, and we worked through the Georgia United Methodist Foundation to arrange something almost unheard of, a no-interest loan. There was no interest charged on the loan for that $4.9 million through the foundation, but it did have a rapidly escalating payment schedule where every year the amount that we were expected to pay toward that mortgage went up by a good bit. And we were well aware of that. The church was well aware of that. And in May of 2013, Greensboro First United Methodist Church launched what they called our Going Forward campaign. That was another 3-year endeavor, and that netted over $1 million toward paying off that debt. And that's when I became acquainted with Greensboro First United Methodist Church, because it was just after that campaign began in June of 2013 that I came here as senior pastor. And I have to tell you, I was impressed that this congregation, even in the midst of pastoral transitions, was conducting ministry in vibrant and vital ways on both sides of Interstate 20 with our historic North Campus on Broad Street in downtown Greensboro and our elegant South Campus here on Cary Station Road. Not only were they conducting ministry and growing ministries, they were working hard toward paying off that remaining building debt even during that time. And one thing that worried us, though, was that rapidly escalating payment schedule. So that's when in July of 2016 we were able to go back to the foundation and work the arrangement that we have now with these requirements that we conduct another capital campaign by the spring of 2019 toward retiring our remaining debt. So now we have our remaining debt, as we've said, right around $2.2 million, and our goal is to raise $2.4 million in the next 2 years. This is a 2-year campaign, and that way we will pay off not only the principal that we still owe, but the interest that is charged only on the difference between the original payment schedule and the payments of that we're required to make now.
I appreciate that. I know all of us in our church appreciate the understanding that. Imagine now, and now we can understand why now.
Why now, indeed? And I'd like to say one more word along those lines. Our church has now been in ministry for quite some time. This South Campus on Cary Station Road, we have been doing ministry from this location now for a decade. This church is 10 years old. This church building on Cary Station Road is 10 years old now. And the cornerstone that is embedded in our historic sanctuary on Broad Street in downtown Greensboro, which was moved from a previous sanctuary in a different location in downtown Greensboro, bears the date of 1909, which means that ministry has been being conducted from that location in historic downtown Greensboro for more than a century, for a century and a decade, in addition to the ministry we've been conducting here from our South Campus on Cary Station Road for a decade. That's a lot of good ministry from the folks called Methodist. Ministry for Jesus Christ here in Greensboro, in the area of that we love to call home and love to call Georgia's Lake Country. And I believe that now is the time to imagine how we can grow our ministries. We have beautiful facilities north and south of Interstate 20, facilities that are appreciated by not only the members of this congregation, but the members of our whole community, and facilities in which and through which ministry happens in the name of Jesus Christ. And I, for one, am ready to see those ministries grow, expand, and flourish now.